John McCain and Richard Nixon were basically raping Chinese women and Japanese women and British women. Like I said, they took. I had provided a White Star, a Lucifer White Star submarine, private submarine rental, classic private submarine rental at Pearl Harbor. They were supposedly renting my submarine, but realistically they were sucking the fuel from the other submarines. My submarines had about like a 1,200-mile range or something like that, or 900-mile range, pretty much. And so they were sucking the fuel from there were like 4 or 6 submarines there. So they were they were for civilian use. So if you had the money, you could rent one. But they didn't have the money, and they were pretending to work there or something. But basically, they're pretty much just stealing the submarines, and um, they sucked the fuel from the other submarines to take the submarine to different places, and they snuck onto this Chinese island, and they were doing commando raids, which meant they were wearing this red thong. And John McCain, there's a picture of John McCain going to the DC building one time wearing nothing but his red thong, like, oh, he owns this place, you know. And the people at the DC building, Washington DC building, told him to go home and get clothes on. He wanted to go in there and to the DC building like in wearing nothing but a thong. Anyway, um, so like they were taking steroids, they were using acid a lot. Anyway, though he would sneak on the shore, and he basically because one of the people was running away from one of the scenes, and they ripped their shirt on one of the fences and left this little tag left. And the Japanese got that little piece of cloth and took it and identified it to a uniform that somebody was wearing. Because all the uniforms were always checked. So or all the clothes were always checked. They went around to everyone because I was supplying clothes to everyone. So when he got his shirt ripped, like they didn't know that LS made all clothes basically. So basically, my people were able to take the little piece of cloth that ripped off the clothes, and they were able to identify it to a shirt type and a shirt and a person. And then they just went around and found where that shirt was sold and identified it to that person and arrested him for rape and also questioned him. Anyway, so John McCain and everybody else went around and they started wearing nothing but the thong, and the submariners talk about the commando raids, and that meant those were the rape parties. They would go and they'd sneak up and they would rape the girls, and sometimes they would take the girls out to the subs, and then later on when they were done with them, they would put them up on top, and then they would submerge the sub when they were like 30 minutes out in the water, or a couple days or half a day's travel out in the water, and of course, and at night. And of course, at night, you don't know which way you're going. So sometimes they would get back to shore, sometimes they'd be washed out to sea. Anyway, that's how those soldiers got those Japanese and Chinese flags. Is just before they submerged, the Japanese would give them the flags and say, take this with you, take this with you. And sometimes they would shove the flags inside the soldiers' clothes. One Japanese person actually took the flag and like slipped it in the guy's belt as he turned around. And the guy didn't even know he had it on him until he was inside the sub, and somebody said, "What's that on your back on your belt?" And he looked down, and there's this little, because it's a really thin cloth, silk cloth, because all the flags were made of silk, and it was a really fine silk cloth flag, and so it fit. So he didn't even notice it was slipped in his belt, and he said, "Oh shit, he must have slipped it on me." Anyway. Because anyway, and they submerged and just left the guys out there to drown. Anyway, and then they would go back, and then they would suck the fuel from the other submarines and put it into into that one submarine, and then they would go do another raid. And they were stealing cigarettes. They were trying to steal cars. They were trying to steal gold, anything that they could fit inside the sub. They were trying to buy drugs from people they would take the subs up the channels, and then they were like saying, "Hey, we need to search your boat," and everybody knew that. Well, I mean, they looked like my official submarines too, but Anyway, they're pretending they got some dress uniforms, but they weren't really military. Anyway, they're just pretending. Anyway, like I said, there's that one time where they actually shot a real 4-star general. They had one guy that was wearing a 4-star general cap, and this real Japanese or Chinese 4-star general was just working on a generator. And one of the guys talks about it. This Japanese guy was working on a generator, and he was a real 4-star general. So he knew he knew everything. And most Japanese, like, they're 4-star generals for life. I mean, they're generals for life, basically. Yeah, I mean, they do lifelong service in Japan or China. So anyway, so they're talking to this epic legendary commander, and like one of the guys, I think it was Guy or someone, he pulls a gun on him. Of course, they don't tell the real name of the person that was actually there, and he actually shoots him, I think. Anyway, they were trying to buy opium or something like that, but they didn't have the money. So they're trying to buy it on a loan or something like that. And they said, well, of course look at the sub. Of course I own it. Anyway, everybody knew about those subs. Everybody knew about the White Star submarines. So, I mean, they're in Hawaii, and lots of people had volunteered to work on them. So, anyway, and then later on they decided to try and kill me. I guess they thought they were rich and powerful. I mean, I'm Lucifer White Star of Stars and Stripes, of the stars of 4 stars, of the word star, the Lucifer, and I'm like the eagle, flying person who invented flight. Like I'm the one who helped them. Well, England could have, or Germany could have broken the sound barrier without me, but I was the one that was helping them break the sound barrier when they did it wrong. But they were doing it by everything I said, so they kind of did it wrong. Well, I did it wrong, so it's actually my fault. But anyway. So anyway, but I mean, the Tomcat, everything like that was all me. I invented the jet engine. Well, I think I did. I mean, other people could have invented it too. It wasn't all that hard to figure out. It's just mostly I had the money to pay for it. So, I mean, I named America and other countries. America wouldn't exist without me. So, and there wouldn't be stars on any buildings without me. So, because like that was my symbol, or curved spoked wheels, like, or a Titanic. I was the one that proved that it was possible. So, I mean, I had the money to pay for it. So. I mean, I also had these legendary steam mining equipment. Like, way in the past, you might hear stories of curved wheels and basically steam mining equipment. That was all me. That's my company. So, anyway, yeah. The Lucifer Star. So, anyway, and the person who had the first white paint shop, and the Renault manufacturing factory, and the Renault paint shop. Like, those were that's my factory complex. They were right next to each other. The person who built Paris and the Eiffel Tower. That's who I am, who I was. And I was building the Vietnam Freeway and the town of Vietnam. Originally it was my British colony. So, I loved British. Like, I adored Britain. They were like, I loved them. So, and they seemed to love me. Like, I treated them really well. I tried to give them everything. Fruit candy, shipping coffee, getting chocolate put in lots of different locations so lots of people could have it, so children could have it. Like, I wanted my civilizations to be epic, not just run the mill.